Back again, everybody. Welcome. Let the sounds of Gorgoroth fill your soul as we get ready to embark on a mystical journey through the dark forest, the neon waters. Why do I speak in such terms? Because, well, everybody, it is time. It's time for a new podcast. One that I feel has been in the works for years now. We just now have the means to do it. We talked about it before on a podcast. We talked to each other before on a podcast, and we said, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do this. Let's do our own podcast. So I introduced to you, everyone, the first ever Say Anything podcast with Big Papa and Jtrain. What is going on, Big Papa?
I'm here again, man. I'm back.
Welcome back.
I'm back, bro. I'm back.
And we're gonna have a running contest. If anybody who's listening to this can tell us why it is called the Say Anything podcast, Big Papa's gonna give you something, but we don't know what it is yet, right?
I'll give you whatever you want. Just show up.
So I started this podcast with Gorgoroth, Sign of an Open Eye. Some of you may know I love black metal. I love the whole kind of aesthetic of it. I like dark themes, macabre themes. I love the whole corpse paint thing. The themes that go into it. I'm not really religious at all, but you know, so that aspect of it I could really care less about. But the other things I'm kind of into, and one person who kind of got me onto it was you. Are you a big Gorgoroth fan? I think when we talk about Gorgoroth, we're talking about only involving Gaul, unless you agree or disagree.
I mean, I'm a big Gorgoroth fan, not massive, but pretty big. Gorgoroth is one of those bands like Carpathian Forest or Mayhem where it's like intentionally necro black metal, basically.
Yeah.
Which means that, the recording quality and everything else is purposely harsh. It's that sort of thing. And there's a lot of people who still have the opinion that, if your black metal band doesn't sound like that, then you're not a black metal band and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, if it doesn't sound like it was recorded on a Razor phone
right.
in a basement in the Arctic.
If you can actually hear the bass player or the hi-hat, you're not in a black metal band, right?
So you were in a band for a while. I mean, your guitar playing is really good. If you go on over to youtube.com/otaku1224, you can actually see some, a little mini series we had where you tried to give lessons. But I mean, you used to practice, you said 8 hours a day, just doing sweep arpeggios and everything, and just trying to recreate the bands that you enjoyed.
I never got that good in terms of sweeping, but I practiced for that long on, different scales, different ideas, technique, just lots and lots of practicing, because at one point I was obsessed with technicality. But funny enough, black metal is what changed my guitar playing completely and totally, because up until that point I didn't really know what I wanted to do, because I wasn't like a prodigy or something like, oh man, soloing is so easy and I can do this and do that. I wasn't very good. At one point I got quite good, but I still didn't know where I wanted to go. And in my opinion, I wasn't good enough to do something like Iron Maiden, X Japan. I wasn't that technical. So I was still kind of searching for what I'd be good at, what would come to me, and that ended up being black metal.
Now, is that why you chose black metal, or did you like the themes? Did you like the music? I'm sure you like the music to some degree, but was it mostly because it was something that was close to what you enjoy, that you could also kind of play and emulate and make your own?
It was just I was kind of thrown into it. I had never heard of it. At the time, I was still, obsessed with people like Yngwie or Danzig, various things like that, just a nice spread of things. And I used to do these things where I would do guitar challenges.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, there were people who played guitar, obviously, in high school, middle school, whatever. And I'd figure out who they were and either invite them over to my house or go over to their house and just do I guess like a guitar challenge type deal. And I won.
Really?
Huh?
Really? I've never heard that. Like you've actually challenged people from like when we went to high school and everything.
Yeah.
And do you have like a
Carl Moore can tell you about it. And by the way, Carl Moore is amazing and very cool. Daniel Tidwell, technically amazing, great guitar player. I don't have shit on him, but in my opinion, his writing is like bland. But technicality wise, I can't touch it. And
yeah?
Carl, with his recording and his various ideas, that's just some of the people we went to school with.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, do you have any like funny stories from when you challenged somebody? Did they ever like freak out on you if you were better than them, or
One guy
did you
broke
guys
his acoustic guitar in half.
because you were better than him?
Yeah, it was like this redneck type dude. He like tripped out and like broke the guitar in half on my wall in like my apartment in Battery Heights. But the interesting story about the black metal is at the time I was just kind of doing my thing and went to go do this guitar challenge, and I walk in and there's this guy. We're at their parents' house obviously, and we do it whatever, and he was a crappy guitar player but was playing black metal, and I'd never heard it before. He was playing like some Immortal,
Yeah, right.
and then they showed me various Immortal videos and like some Burzum and stuff. I didn't quite get it at first. I was like, what the hell is this? With it looks like Demonic Kiss or something. That was my thought on it at the time, but man, that's quite intense. All right. I didn't think much of it. Well, I went to go have a cigarette after there was like 5 people there, like all his friends and, whatever. After everybody had decided that I was better than him and yada, yada, whatever, I walked outside to have a cigarette, and his twin brother, a guy named Ryan, was there, and he was smoking too. And he had just gotten out of a mental hospital.
Which makes for a good bandmate, right? Like for making like those hardcore songs and everything.
Apparently, he had just gotten out of this is a true story. This is how it happened. He had gotten out of the mental hospital. He tried to kill himself or something like that. He had a shaved head, leather jacket, looked like one of those neo-Nazi dudes, like Varg, like when he was young or something. And he just said to me, he was like, "Dude, you want to start a black metal band?" And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know what the hell. I just saw some clips, or I don't know. I'll get back with you. All right. Well, sooner or later that transforms into me being like, Burzum is amazing. Carpathian Forest is amazing. Yada,
So
yada.
what did you do when you got home? Because I mean, it wasn't necessarily YouTube. But was this like the YouTube age, like where you?
This is the very, 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 very beginning YouTube age where like.
So what was on YouTube that was black metal?
Nothing. A few videos, like Immortal, I think, and there wasn't much. It was that time period of where when you heard a band, you had to go and like I can't even remember how I got the files. Of course, I pirated them. It's not like I can. It's not like I can walk.
You acquired them, yeah, right?
Yeah. Oh, come on. Come on. I pirated them. You know why? Because back then, dude, and still to this day, you can't just walk into a Best Buy or a Walmart and I'm going to buy Burzum's new album. It's imported. It costs $70. It's great. You can't just buy black metal, which sucks. I wish you could, but yeah, you can't. You can now, but back during that time, no. And so I got a bunch of Burzum, bunch of Emperor, bunch of other things, and really got into it, really liked it, and got a hold of Ryan and was like, yeah, I want to try this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the band began.
Awesome. And so, like, what was your first what goes into making a sound, lyrics? Because is this Arcale that you're talking about?
Yeah, that was how that began.
Okay, so Arcale, for those of you who don't know, was a band that
still is around, just not
still is around, but you're not.
Member left is Lennon Parada.
Yeah, and you're not in it yet, but you know you had a big influence on like their beginning songs and such. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was in it for like 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I
what
was
was
the
the?
founding member. I mean, I wrote the way that it was done. I mean, every band is different, but the way that it was basically done was me and Lennon would sit down and just jam and play. And that kind of thing. I wouldn't sit down and write out an entire song. Usually, what I'd do is I'd write one riff. That's it. And I'd say, all right, that's going to be the next song. Then we'd sit down for hours
Oh.
and hours. And it would soon, be like, he'd be like, all right, play the riff. And I'd play it again, play it again, play it again, play it. All right, let's try and add something, make something up, do it again. And you basically go at it for like 6 to 7 hours and maybe
Wow.
get 3 minutes. Like I said, I really don't view myself as being very talented as a musician.
Yeah, but I've heard some of the RKL stuff, and it's really good. You know, the
Yeah.
stuff that you've had a hand in.
Yes. It's not bad. I set out to write good black metal. I think I accomplished it.
Is there a place where you would send people to like kind of listen to some of your stuff? I mean, I wouldn't even know where it is now because it first manifested like on MySpace, right?
First manifested on MySpace, and then there's actually a pretty funny story about that.
Go ahead.
Well, basically, it was so weird because we were pretty much the only black metal band that was doing shows aside
In
from another one
in the area?
in a large area. Jesus,
Yeah, because this was in Virginia.
like the state, like aside from like one other band. And it was funny because there were a bunch of like guys who were trying to do one but couldn't quite make it. And I remember there was this one, I guess you could say like a fan or something, and he was always asking me about guitar playing, and he was like, he had a band, and next thing you know, me and Lennon are looking on his page. He had basically blatantly riff by riff copied one of our songs.
Oh no.
And we were pissed, man. We were like, dude, he lives nearby. Maybe we should go fuck him up. I'm like, no, we can't do that. We don't want to start, the whole Norwegian thing in Virginia. We can't start burning buildings and stabbing people. I was like, what we should do? He's like, what? I'm like, if he's gonna rip us off, let's rip him off. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, we rip off our own song from him that he ripped off from us. And he was like, dude, that is so cheap. And I'm like, I know, let's do it. But it never got that ridiculous because, well, he didn't go anywhere or do anything. So, but I thought that was pretty funny.
If you did mess him up, if you did do stuff, the whole Norwegian thing, your music might have been more popular. You might have sold more albums.
I mean, I might have, but at the same point, I mean, I don't really feel like,
I'm just
dealing
kidding,
in.
yeah.
I mean, I've been to jail a couple times for dumb stuff. I'd rather not do it more than I have to.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said we were kind of doing the pre-show thing, and you said you had a funny drunken story revolving around black metal, and I think that every episode we're gonna try because you have nobody really holds a candle to you in terms of like, stories when you are under the influence of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So, and you have enough to probably fill like an entire catalog of podcasts.
Oh yeah.
And so we're gonna try to see if we can pull one up from like a flashback of like one of some of the better ones. And we were talking, and you said you had a good one revolving around black metal.
I do. Oh my God.
Strap in, everybody.
Later on episodes, we can get into like the real nightmares like of anime cons where I decided it was a good idea to snort large amounts of Valium and then talk about hating fat chicks in a room full of fat chicks like while Yowie's playing. That's horrifying.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah, that was great. No, what was happening was, so at the time, there were no venues really that were offering any shows unless you wanted to go to Richmond or Maryland or whatever. And at the time, all the heavy metal bands in the area were trying to get together and form some sort of group, that would book shows and play shows in Fredericksburg or Manassas, whatever. And everybody was just trying to be friends, and get
Right.
along and make a scene, I guess, because there was no scene, there was nothing. And, we would have kind of, I guess, like meetings, I guess, like a democratic view on what should be done, that sort of thing. And one of the first meetings was I was hanging out with, I was invited to go over to the band house of, at the time, the band was a Serial Audiophile. They were like a death metal band.
Okay.
And, they knew I was big into the whole Japanese thing and whatnot. And the basic idea was that I would go there and we would talk and we would maybe like become friends, do the whole, what's that word? We're going to do this together. We're going to book shows together. We're going to cooperate for the greater good of whatever.
Teamwork.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get people, and it's gonna be great. So that was the basic idea of the meeting. Well, it didn't go like that, not at all. I show up, and they know that I'm into the Japanese thing quite a bit. So I show up, and they're like, "Oh, Shane, we're really honored that you're here. This is great. This meeting, we're gonna get down to some really great stuff, some really great planning, and." We're really honored that you're here and we got you a gift. I'm like, okay. He's like, yes, sir, we have some Jaeger. I'm like, fantastic. All right. So I walk in, I get the Jaeger, I sit down, and we're talking about shows and everything like that and where to book, what to do, different music ideas. And I noticed that the one guy's girlfriend, I don't think it was, no, some random chick, not his girlfriend, was sitting on the couch. Rather large lady, somewhat land monster-like. And as the night goes on, it's basically us sitting down, taking just straight-up shots of Jaeger and vodka. And as it goes on, she becomes more and more despondent. She obviously doesn't drink much. And the problem is I started to realize that I wasn't paying attention to how much she was drinking. Once I realized that I wasn't paying attention to how much she was drinking, well, then it all went downhill from there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm sitting there. I'm pretty buzzed up. Shane, oh God, it's you. What? Your hair is curly. Yeah, it tends to be that way. Fuck your mother, Shane. Fuck your mother. No joke.
No.
Just start saying that. And the two guys are like, whoa, what are you doing? Jesus, that's horrifying. You can't just say that to people. They're like, this is serious. This is a sober moment. You need to calm down right now or you need to get out. You can't talk to Shane like that. This is crazy. And she just blathering nonsense and then starts vomiting and then just like passes out on the couch. I went, ugh! I freaked out. I grabbed a trash can. I like chucked it across the room, and it accidentally like smacked her in the face and like
accidentally.
Yeah, because my first thought was she's like throwing up all over the place like a cocker spaniel. Like, dude, So I like freaked out and like grabbed the trash can, chucked it at her, and it smacked her in the face and knocked her out even more. So then I had to like walk over there, and I grabbed her ponytail and like lifted her head up and like put it in the trash can and like supported it with like a computer chair. And then, it was like as if nothing happened. And the night kept waning on and on and on. And then they're like, Shane, this is great. All right, well, before you go, we have another special present for you. I'm like, at this point, I'm housed. I'm trashed. And I'm just like, oh, what is it? They're like, go open the fridge. I'm like, okay. So I walk over to the fridge and I open it, and in the direct center of the fridge, like picturesque, is a unopened fresh bottle of Bailey's.
Oh no.
And I knew exactly what to do with it. So I grabbed the bottle of Bailey's, I ripped her shoe off.
Oh no. Whose shoe?
Huh?
Whose shoe?
The passed out chick.
Oh no.
Which was even worse because, dude, before I ripped her shoe off, she was still trashed. Well, of course, she was like trying to like get me to like play with her tits and everything else with her head still in the trash can and like mumbling stuff. It was horrifying.
Wow.
Yeah. And I grabbed her shoe off and I took the bottle of Bailey's and I emptied about, oh, 1/3 of it into the shoe and then I drank it.
Oh, what did that taste like?
I mean, the shoe was actually really clean, so it wasn't bad. And then they drank Bailey's out of the shoe. We all drank Bailey's out of the shoe.
And for people who don't know, you got that from where?
Old Greg.
All right. Now, I have never seen the old Greg video. Why does he do that?
I don't know. They're just on a boat, and he just asked him. He's like, "Have you ever drank Bailey's from a shoe?" And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm gonna hurt you." It's like, what? It's like, geez. So at that point, everybody drank Bailey's out of the shoe. Well, then it gets even worse. On the ride home, I was so drunk, I couldn't actually hold my head up. I was like, it was like leaning on the window, and I had to like stumble in. And I don't remember very much. The only thing I remember is I went into the shower, and I remember for some odd reason, I thought it was a good idea to vomit while taking a shower. Because in my mind, it was just going to go down the drain. I wouldn't have to clean myself up because I'm already in the shower and it would just be great. Well, after that, I black out.
Oh, no.
I wake up the next morning because I have to go to work, and I'm still completely and totally naked, but for some odd reason I have on my work boots, and for some odd reason I have a gas mask on, and I'm like passed out like in the middle of my room, not even.
Where did you get a gas mask?
I've had one for a while.
For what?
Just to have a gas mask. What's wrong with that? Like, what do you?
Who doesn't have one?
I mean, I don't know. I think you'd be pretty surprised the large quantity of people that have a gas mask. It's an affordable, great thing. I mean, not like a prepper or anything, but I mean, sometimes a man just needs a gas mask. I've used it multiple times.
All right.
Well, anyway, so I woke up and I was naked and like passed out in the middle of my room, and I had my work boots on and I had a gas mask on. There was just everything's thrown around the room, whatever. It was terrible. And I walked up to my bathroom to like get a shower. Well, the tub is clogged with vomit. And like gallons and gallons of water because, well, it didn't go down the drain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was still drunk. And I drove to work. And I drove to work. I was a mechanic at the time. It's like 110 degrees outside. And I'm like, oh, it felt so bad. And my boss was like, "You reek of Bailey's." And I was like, "I know."
Was your boss pissed?
No, oddly enough, he wasn't pissed at all. And I told him what happened, and he said, "That's incredible. That is amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And he was like, "I'm going to give you a raise." And I was like,
didn't. No, what?
"I'm not joking." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Right. All right. So you're going up to $11 an hour, and we can't have you at work drunk, so go home. But man, that is awesome." And I was like,
"That sounds surreal."
It was, because I was out of it, man. And I was like, "Okay, all right." So I just go. I'm not fired. He's like, "No, not at all." I'm like, "All right." So went back home to recover. That was so weird.
That is pretty weird. So you said you woke up in the shower, or you didn't?
No, I blacked out, and then I woke up just kind of like laying in my just on the floor, not even on the bed.
Okay, so who cleaned up the shower?
I did when I got home later on that day.
Was that horrible?
It was. I almost threw up again in the shower.
Oh, that must have been awful, man. Dude, that's why I don't want to ever host a party like where I'm at, because people just trash stuff up, man. Well, not aside from the fact that I don't drink or anything. Like, I don't know why somebody would want to host a party with large amounts of people and like stuff that can just get all over the place and people acting ridiculous. And I mean, do you see the appeal of that?
Hosting a party, I mean, I used to host them, and they would get really out of control.
I'm sure at your parties, yeah.
Oh yeah, there was that one time where we like I decided it was a good idea to like chug a liter of vodka, and my friends did the same thing, and then we got in my old car and like filled it with smoke bombs and like lit them up in the car with all the windows up, and I had my gas mask on, and they were trying to breathe out the window with like a straw. It like burnt my car to shit, and like
Oh no.
it would get out of control. So do I see the appeal nowadays? No. Did I see it back then? Apparently.
That's ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
Actually, when I was down in Florida, like the three roommates that I had, because I pretty much just went in blind picking a apartment or whatever. Apparently they loved to party. Actually, the first day I showed up, there were like trash bags full with like beer boxes and everything, and like the floor was sticky and just. I just remember my dad like looking at me being like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, I guess I'm in it now. And I was there for like a year, and like they would have parties, and it's just the most awkward thing because I would like go in, I'm like, I don't get this at all. And I would just go to my room, and like people would just probably think that I was like really weird. And then it got really weird when like my roommates got drunk and would like knock on my door and be like, hey everyone, this is Jason. And I'm like, hey, what's up?
I don't
And just
understand why you should have at least played to it a little bit, like just play it like a
I
little.
I did it the first time, and it's just like the second you say, yeah, I don't drink, like people want to like it's like they're like super overly cautious with you for some reason,
Right.
and they're just like, no, it's cool, dude, it's cool, bro, that's fine, like I'm totally fine, like I don't really do this that much either, and
Oh no, surely not.
yeah, and like I know my one of my friends doesn't drink or whatever, and they try to make you have fun, but it's still like kind of awkward because at the end of the day, like you realize that all the stuff they're doing is not fun and it's kind of ridiculous. The only reason why they're having so much fun is because they're under the influence. And then so what happens with me is because the thing is, I don't know, something about me or whatever where I don't just socially click with people. I don't just automatically like people are like, "Oh man, Jason's such a great guy" or whatever. They're not like that at first. So what they do is like it mostly ends with me just sitting there awkwardly holding a cup filled with something that I'm not drinking out of,
Oh,
just
I mean, that's
staring at
if
people.
I were to go to a party and I didn't drink, same thing would happen to me because I mean, what am I gonna? All the stuff I'm gonna talk to people about, people are just gonna be like, "You're weird," or what? Like you can't just a lot. I mean, it depends on what you're into. I mean, most of the people aren't going to want to sit down and talk about black metal philosophy and various other things. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And I mean, I think you kind of get a kick out of making people uncomfortable a lot of
I
times. Like
do.
that's
I
kind
really enjoy it, actually.
no, you really do. Like I think one time we were at Chick-fil-A and like there was this girl there and like I think I was telling you like, yeah, she's pretty attractive or whatever. And you were like there with me. I don't know if you remember this story. This is like way back in the days of Manassas Mall when they had a Chick-fil-A in there. And I was just like standing there and like the girl's like, "Yeah, can I take your orders?" Like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then suddenly you just go, "Have you ever lit yourself on fire?" or something like that. And I was like, "What?" And she's just like, "What?" And you just ran like you like to test people that way.
I do like to test people. In fact, at my current job, all the time, like just to mix things up, because like you talk to people and you're just like, "Hey, how are you doing?" They're like, "Oh, good." It's always, "Oh, good." So sometimes I'll mix it up and just be like, "Horrible." And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, today my car caught on fire." And they're like, "Oh my, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh my.
yeah." And I'm like, "So am I." Well, that's what I'm gonna do now. And they're like, "Did your car really catch on fire?" And I'm like, "Yep." I was kind of freaking out about it earlier, but now I've come to terms with it. And that's what I did. Like,
Like, but they didn't see any car in the parking lot that was like on fire though, like or torched or
no,
anything, right?
because I just you tell them, "Hey, it got towed."
Oh, okay. That's I mean that's pretty cool.
Or I'll just make up stuff, like for a while there, I told every person that came into the door that Like I was down at the Rappahannock River and a crab so massive, it could like rip a man's head off, like came out. And then it was probably from like the nuclear waste,
Like a kingler or something just popped
Yeah,
out.
yeah. And it's pretty funny because I said it to so many people. One night I was at Hard Times and somebody was actually talking about it. Like, the guy was like, "Where's this guy talking about? There's this massive crab at the Rappahannock. Maybe it's from like the nuclear fallout or whatever, man. Like, the nuclear waste, from like the Lake Anna nuclear plant, man. I don't know, man. There were sharks in the Rappahannock. So, I mean, could be real, right?" And the guy's like, "No, I don't think so." "Bro, maybe we should go down there and check it out." And I'm just like, I can't believe that I've told so many people this shit that someone's talking about it in a bar.
Yeah, right, right. Now, do you ever talk to people about your new coral hobby?
Not generally.
Now you're like all in on corals now.
All in on corals, man. Attempting to. It's
What
horrifying.
what like made you just one day say, you know what, I want to research corals. I want to get into these things.
Well, I didn't really have anything to do. I'd cut my drinking back a lot, and I was looking
Okay.
for something to like fill in the time, something constructive. And I looked at some pictures of coral, and I was like, the thought that I could grow coral or have a like a reef, a mini reef or
A
something
reef.
like, yeah, reef in my room. That was just a crazy, crazy thought, and I was like, well, let me see if I can do it.
Now, what do you have to do? Because corals are like, from what I remember in my biology, studies, they're like organisms that like latch on to like maybe like a rock or some sort of substrate, and then they start growing out into
That's
those what you see. Yeah.
Yep,
So
exactly.
so do you buy the organism and then you just kind of dump them in there and they start randomly just doing it or what?
Well, they come on frag plugs. They come on little ceramic discs, and basically somebody in the ocean or whatever, they'll cut a piece off and super glue it to it, and then you can put it anywhere.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so basically it all comes down to it comes down to a lot of stuff. It's very, very, very hard to do.
So I guess it's hard to care for corals and
It is and it isn't.
now how do you find them? Are they expensive or
Well, in Manassas, there's a great coral store called Incredible Corals. You can get corals anywhere from $10 to 20, 30, 40, and they have sales all the time. And you just basically find a coral store and you go. But it's really difficult though because you have to have everything in line. They don't like they you must offer complete and total stability basically, and that may sound easy, but it's not because you're trying to control salinity of the water,
temperature, right?
temperature. You're trying to control exact full spectrum lighting needs. You're trying.
Oh, really? Because I guess they photosynthesize.
Oh yeah,
Okay, see, I didn't see. Okay, I actually didn't really know that. I didn't think about that. So they photosynthesize. They're like sea plants,
kind of,
or
because
they
they
do.
photosynthesize and they also eat.
Okay, that's interesting.
They do both. So not only are you trying to control that, but you're also trying to control the calcium level in the water, the alkalinity, the magnesium, the level of phosphate, the level of ultimate nitrate. Uh, you can even get down to iodine if you want. It's
Dude, you should start
ridiculous.
working at the zoo now with all the stuff you know.
Should work at the zoo, bro. Either that
Yeah,
or like the water treatment plant. That would be great.
that would be pretty
It
cool.
would
Like
sound
so,
like a cushy government job.
yeah. So what are there corals that are more, uh, I guess worth it more than another one, or more valuable, more sought after? Like
Well,
what are you looking for in corals?
the problem is I've only been doing it for a year and a couple months. That may sound like a lot of time, but it's really not because the problem is that it's very expensive. I mean, it's pointlessly expensive. Just that I only have a 20-gallon long tank
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, and I don't even have a great light. Just the light that I have on alone, that's $160, just the light.
Wow.
And then you take into account, your rock. Okay, so let's say you want to put rock in there, which you need for biological filtration. Okay, that's another $60. Then you take into account your sand, that's another $30. Then you take into account a good filter. Well, there you go. There's another $80. Then you take into account, salt. It's like $15 per 50 gallons worth of salt. But one of the biggest costs is how are you going to get your water? Because you can't just use tap water.
Right.
Because if you were to use tap water, it would completely and totally destroy your entire tank in an hour.
Because it's got like chlorine and fluoride in it and everything.
Chlorine, chloramine, copper, yeah,
Wow.
nitrate, phosphate.
So what's the process of cleaning the water and getting it perfect?
Well, most people buy an RODI unit, which I hate myself because I did not purchase one. When I was setting up the tank, it was like Black Friday for bulk reef supply, and they're like, "You can get this RODI unit for $100." I'm like, $100? Jesus, screw that! I could just buy distilled water. Yeah, whatever. I'll buy distilled water from the supermarket. Okay, well, fast forward a year and a half, I can't even begin to tell you how much distilled water I've bought, and it's a pain in the ass. I get off work on a Friday, I go to Giant, I will buy like 10 gallons of distilled water. Oh yeah, and you want to talk about more costs? Okay, so that's 80 cents a gallon. On top of that, you got to have a way to make the water. So on top of that, in the corner of my room, there is a tote that holds 20 gallons of water. In that tote is a circulation pump, another pump, a heater, and an air stone. You throw your distilled water in there, you throw your salt in there, and it mixes. And once it's right, well, then you're good and you can store it. And I have a hose going from that tote all the way across the room, hidden all the way up to the saltwater tank. So that way, once I take out salt water, all I have to do is hit a little button, and the little button turns on the pump, which takes the salt from the tote to the tank.
So you're also paying for like energy to get all this stuff to go and everything, right?
Right. So on top of that, you got to make the water. But also on top of that, you're dealing with salt water. So it evaporates heavily. So what happens when it evaporates? The salinity of the water increases. What happens when that happens? Things get pissed off, like your corals. Bunch of money on. So what must you do? You must top off the water with distilled water every day.
Wow. Dude, is it worth it?
Oh, I hate you.
You say you think so?
No, I said I hate you.
Why?
Is it worth it?
I mean, is it like seems like a lot of work, man.
I don't. There are moments when I'm like, oh my God, it's just so beautiful. Did you get that pic I sent you last night?
Yeah, oh no, the pictures sending me are great. You should actually
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Post those somewhere, like some sort of coral forum or a quorum.
My boyfriend, he takes him. He loves that shit. But no, is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. But I think the best advice I could give if you want to do a saltwater tank, well, a freshwater tank, that's easy. That is nothing. That is so cheap and so simple. Please start out with that. But if you really want to do saltwater, my advice would be save up about $1,000.
Wow. It's a lot, man.
Save up about $1,000. Don't do what I did and do it piece by piece by piece, learning, reading for months and months and months. Do all your reading beforehand. Don't try and do it all at once or as you go along. It doesn't work out. Save up about $1,000. Buy yourself a roadie unit so you don't have to go buy distilled water, and that the people, you don't have to keep telling lies to the people at the Giant of what you do with the distilled water.
You should make up a different story every time.
I do actually. Last time there was a new cashier and he was like, "Whoa, that's a lot of distilled water," because I had like 20 gallons, and I was like, "Yeah, bro, I need it." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm allergic to water." Well, any water that has dissolved solids in it. So no city water, no well water, gotta have distilled. He's all like, "Wow, that's crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I have to brush my teeth with it. I have to
Oh no.
with it. I have to clean with it. It's incredible. It makes my life really hard." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "So am I." All
You
right.
could be like, this is the GoFundMe you can go to like help me.
Like, so am I. All right. I gotta go now with my 20 gallons of distilled water. Yeah,
What is-
that's my advice. Get a nice kid. Get a roadie unit.
Is your mom supportive of your coral habit?
She thinks it's cool. Um, she hasn't really seen it much because like we don't. I know it's pretty funny because people are like, "Oh, you live with your parents." Oh, okay. But honestly, the work schedule is such that I don't ever hardly even see them because one works at night and then one works late day. And for a while there, I was working like 60 hours a week, so I wouldn't even see them actually.
Right, right. That's cool, man. But hey, we've been talking for a little while. I really appreciate you. I think this was a good first episode
Of say anything.
of Say Anything with Big Papa and Jtrain.
Why don't we just I think we should tell people what and why we named it Say Anything.
Okay, let me load it up then real
Why
quick.
don't we just real quick before we exit, because we're going to be doing this until we both think that it's not worth it or it's stupid, whatever.
So like by next episode?
Huh?
So by like next episode?
Maybe.
All
I don't know. It depends. But so why do we name it Say Anything?
right, well, you know what? Here we go.
Okay.
It's playing right now. You can't hear it, Shane, but so my friend Shane, Big Papa,
Yeah.
is a big fan of a certain band called X Japan. And
Right.
if you know anything about X Japan, you already know why the song's playing and why we've called it this, but they have a song called Say Anything, and I just thought it'd be a really cool name for a podcast.
That's not the real story.
All right, go ahead. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Why don't you go ahead and tell that part?
The real reason as to why we named it Say Anything is because Jason's economy skills in Warcraft 3 suck.
They're awesome. They're great. I run a great economy in Warcraft 3, sir.
No, it's not, because we'd be winning the game or whatever, and then something would happen, and you would have no units whatsoever, and I'd look over and you'd have 3,000 gold stashed away, and just a single blade master, and I would get really angry and call you up.
Sounds like we had a great economy over where I was because we had 3,000 gold.
Yeah, exactly. But then you have to spend it.
We don't have.
If you haven't spent it yet, and you don't have any troops, and they have 30, and you have none.
I had the blade master. That's all I needed.
Oh yeah, many times, many times. That's why we got so high in the rankings. You cheap bastard.
Were we ever ranked?
No, we weren't.
Yeah, no, of course not. But what was great about it was that like it made you learn how to 2v1 people.
Yeah,
Or
of
1v2
course.
people.
It made me a better player. Yeah, I just want to say that again. It made me a better Warcraft player, Jtrain. It made I a better Warcraft player.
Yeah. Well, you need to get on League of Legends because that's the new game, man.
You've been trying to get me to do that for like a year and a half.
You should try it.
I don't know. No.
Do it.
I might.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, have a great night. Thanks for joining me, and for all of you who are listening to this, you can find this show and all the other shows on the JTrain Network on iTunes or youtube.com/Otaku1224 or soundcloud.com/JTrain1224. See y'all later.